Die My Love is a new film from Lynne Ramsay, stars Jennifer Lawrence, Robert Pattinson. I had the opportunity to watch this last week, and I've been meaning to make a video, but I just can't put the words to my thoughts or to what I'm trying to convey here. I don't even know if that even made sense right there. Hopefully this video does, but I'm going to tell you, this is going to be my first go at really trying to process what this film is all about. I probably won't get it right because first and foremost, I am not a woman. I've never given birth. I don't even have children at the moment. So I think there's another layer there that you probably understand a bit more if you fit into those categories, which I do not. But I have watched the movie once and I've thought about it, written about it, had more time to process it, right? I did a review where it kind of helped me to sort of think about the movie a bit more. So let's get into my thoughts on the ending, what it means, and what this movie really is about. And I probably don't have it right because this is a movie that I think, like any movie, you just gotta feel and you come up with your own conclusions. So somebody else can have a very different opinion than me and another explanation, and that's fine. We're not right. Nobody knows, right? This is actually based on a book, and I've heard that things are changed in the book, and I want to talk about adaptations and all of that in a whole other video because that is something that has come up a lot recently with Frankenstein, Wuthering Heights, and we can even talk about Die My Love. A whole other video. Stay tuned for that one. That's going to be good. But let's talk about Die My Love and its ending and what exactly does it mean. The film follows Jackson and Grace. Grace, of course, played by Jennifer Lawrence, Jackson played by Robert Pattinson, who moved from New York to Montana. The reason they do this is because Jackson's uncle actually shot himself, and now he has left the home to Jackson. And this is a big drastic change, right? Most importantly for Grace. Jackson, of course, has lived in Montana before, and all of his family's here. Grace is coming from New York. Now, we don't have background on where Grace was before that, or if she is from New York, but of course, we do know that she is a writer, so it made sense for her to be in New York or one of these like coastal cities where there's more opportunities. Now she's going to rural Montana where she is surrounded by trees and can feel some way about it, right? Because you're isolated from the world, basically. Jackson doesn't have this isolation because, like I said, he grew up here and his family's here. So he's really bringing in Grace into a cage of sorts, if you will, metaphorically speaking, but also physically because she's surrounded by trees. And then you have to add onto that that now she is a mother as they give birth to a young baby boy. And this is where we start to see Grace's descent into what I could say is psychosis, madness, postpartum depression. There's a lot of different things that people are floating around what exactly was going on with Grace. We see that once she gives birth, she sort of doesn't feel herself anymore. And we see her have these like visions that aren't really true, especially with a guy on a motorcycle that she has an affair with. But ultimately throughout the film, we see that that is more and more just in her head and she's just fantasizing about this. And eventually when she confronts the guy in quote unquote real life, the guy doesn't have a clue who she is. And we can sense that there is deeply, deeply something wrong with Grace here. And of course, she does this because she is being ignored, put to the side, and not acknowledged by her husband Jackson, who travels a lot for work and also sleeps around. And that's pretty much where you see the root of it all happen here. She doesn't feel loved. She feels isolated. She just gave birth to a baby and she's not herself anymore. Where does she fit in here? Is she destined to just live out all her life in this isolated community for her and never really relish in what she wanted to do, and that was writing? And by the time that the film reaches its third act, we have seen Grace go through so much here, even killing a dog. Before we get into that, I will tell you, I think you definitely have to go into this movie thinking of it more as poetry than actually something literal or trying to understand it. And I feel like this is a movie you gotta feel. And if you still don't like it even after that, totally fine. I just think that you definitely could give it another chance if it was something you didn't really enjoy because of that. Because when Grace shoots this dog, I think it's one of the most important scenes in the film because it really sets up what exactly is going on here. Because the dog, up until this point with the baby, had sort of been a thing that has been driving her mad, from the barking of the dog to the crying of the baby, and nobody there to help her, kind of showcasing how Jackson has completely abandoned her and wants her to pick up the pieces, and at the same time, for herself to get better without really acknowledging what's going on. Because there is a accident that is had with a horse where they sort of like are driving and hit a horse, and then the dog's in the car, Jackson and Grace, and the get hurt, but the dog gets more hurt. I'll talk about the horse in a bit because it's important as well. And that night, the dog is just crying. It's in agony. It's in pain. And Grace has had enough. She says to Jackson, you have to put it down. You can't let it be in agony. If it's something you truly love, you have to put it down. Now, on a first watch, she's talking about the dog and all of that, right? But the more you sit with that scene and think about what Grace is saying to Jackson, she's talking about herself. She's talking about how she is unhappy in this situation, and the only one that can put an end to this is going to be Jackson. She doesn't know how to end this. She doesn't know how to climb out of this because she is in a deep depression. It's all dark. Jackson can provide that light and help her, but instead Jackson tells her about the dog. I'll just wait to take him to the vet. Don't worry about it, which is something that he kind of is saying to Grace as well with his actions is you'll be better in no time. Just don't worry about it. But I got to go do my stuff. I'm too busy, right? And I think it goes with a lot of what we hear in our society where people kind of treat the raising of children as just something you're supposed to do. And you need to be like thankful you're just doing that and not working a laborious job and all that. Like we always hear it a lot where the men can kind of be like, well, you know what? She's just raising the children at home. I'd rather be at home raising the children than to come to this job. But it's like, but then you don't do it, right? Not taking into consideration that that is a job that is 24/7 if you say that it's a job, right? And we don't know if Grace even wanted to do this in the first place, but it's that love and affection she has for Jackson at the beginning that we see that is sort of primal at best is what really made her want to do this move for him. And it seems that it was not the great move for Grace. We can also think that Grace did this move for Jackson's father, whose mental health was declining, and maybe this was a way for him to be closer to him. But now Grace and Jackson have sort of become stuck to this house. And I think that's what's really eating away at Grace here. By the end of the film, with Grace's mental decline even more and more apparent to Jackson, he finally decides to do something to make it up for her by marrying her. Maybe this will show that he is truly committed and in love with her. But the truth is, we find out that this was actually done so he could commit her to a psych ward where she is taken in. And we eventually find the root of the problem with Grace, or what she thinks is the problem, and that is abandonment issues that she feels from her parents, especially with them dying at a young age for Grace. And that kind of is something that has plagued her, it seems, feeling abandoned, feeling like she is isolated from the world. And we continue to see it sort of be showcased in this film. When she is finally released, we see that Jackson has kind of picked up the pieces. He has remodeled, cleaned the house, he's got a new car, and seems that things are going to go back to normal, but it's not really that way when they have a welcome home party for Grace, where Grace actually bakes her own cake, and something she wasn't able to do at the beginning of the film, she says, when it is the baby's, like, I forgot how many months old it is, I think like 6 months old. She's not able to make him a cake from scratch, but here she is. But all doesn't seem well because Grace finally sort of snaps back. We see as Grace leaves the party and is walking alone. Eventually Jackson does pick her up, but then she just tells him enough. That's it. She takes her journal, she takes her writings, burns it in the forest, and she burns everything down, the trees and all, as she takes off her clothes and goes into the forest that is burning down naked, as Jackson watches in almost disbelief and relief at the same time. And he just lets this happen as he sees Grace burn down with everything around her. And that's pretty much the ending right there. And I think what we're seeing here is something that can be interpreted in so many ways. There's the dark way that this turned out, that Grace may have lost her battle with her mental health. And this is us seeing her basically be gone now. She is no more. She is not in this world with us. And that is a very bleak and dark ending as well. So Lynne Ramsay actually spoke about the whole ending and singled out what they were talking about when this premiered back at Cannes and said the whole postpartum thing's bullshit. She says people love to sit and have their little pigeonhole just to make it easy to say in a couple of words, it's about this. And I don't think the film is just about that. It's about their marriage breaking down, her being isolated, her loneliness, and her creativity drying up, the sex drying up, and everything kind of imploding. I think it's too reductive to just say it's that. And I will tell you, yes, it is kind of crazy that I see a lot of people just saying that that's what the movie's about instead of really talking about it and unpacking something from there. And like I said, if you're a woman, if you're a mother or aren't a mother, mother, I think you have a lot more to say than probably me, who is a man who doesn't have children. And I think that's what makes this movie that much more like deeper, because there's more to it. There's so many layers to each scene. There's so much they're doing in this movie. Every scene is poetry, as Jennifer and Ramsay have said already. And Ramsay talks about the ending by saying, I think it's her character setting her work on fire. She also said it's not a literal ending, so she's not really out there burning the forest in herself. As we see, she's probably still at the party, and she's just there internally dying, you could say. The world is on fire, but Pattinson's character of Jackson is right there, and Ramsay says, and him still wanting to be with her. And I think it just showcases how much sort of love these characters have for one another, right? We aren't really told the clear picture if yes, indeed, Pattinson's cheating or if he's not, what's going on with Jackson when he goes on these trips. We don't really get a clear message there. Could it be Jennifer's character of Grace just really spiraling more in her head, playing games with her, or is this really happening and Jackson's a piece of shit? The movie doesn't want to be clear with you, and that's okay. The movie wants to push you. It wants to assault you. It wants to shake things up for you and have you see that this is just what this woman's going through, and nobody's really there for her, right? It isn't until the very end that Jackson kind of starts to make these changes, but these changes aren't good enough. You know, sometimes when people see that you're broken and at your lowest and all of that, and they say, well, do you want to go out and do something, all of that? Yes, it's going to be a band-aid to help you out, but it's not really going to heal you all the way from this deep wound that you're feeling deep down in your soul and your heart and your mind. And I think that's what's going on with Grace's character at the end. This is a band-aid of sorts. The therapy she received for those moments when she was committed by Jackson maybe kind of helped her rationalize a bit. But at the same time, she's not healed. Maybe she will never be healed. Maybe she needs to continue to work on herself, to continue to look inwards and see what's going on and fully heal from this trauma that she has. And I think the belief that if she never ever heals, that's bad, is kind of what's holding her back, because she can continue to heal at her own pace and be better than she was each day, maybe step back a little bit sometimes, tumble here and there, but ultimately keep paving her way forward. And I think that's what Grace is trying to really wrap her head around by the end of the film, is where does she really go from here? And it's kind of scary, and it kind of feels like she has to tear herself down or burn everything that's within her, but she's not sure if that's the correct way to do it either. And the movie just ends like that because we can't see any more. And the repetitiveness, the cyclical nature of the film throughout, where we see Grace continue to spiral and continue to sort of be a threat to some people or seen as a burden to others, but her husband is trying and trying. And I think it's just a marriage that's continuing to crumble, and they're trying to hold up the pieces, but they ultimately can't. And it goes back to the horse. I think the horse continues to showcase that this is Grace's freedom. This is her spirit being awakened and going towards the horizon to a new world, but ultimately being hurt by her own husband, because Jackson is the one that hits the horse with the car. I kind of interpreted in another way also, where we see that Grace has decided to just completely abandon everything that she sort of aspired to be and is just going to commit to this life now that she has, because she burns her writings, she burns all of that, she burns her forest where she found freedom, you could say. Throughout the whole film, we saw that Grace always felt sort of insane, or that she was losing her mind when she was inside the house. She always found freedom and felt like she could express herself when she was outside, especially in the forest. This is where we saw her do her dance with Harry that at the beginning of the film. And I think this is where we also saw her having those fantasies with the neighbor, who of course is played by LaKeith Stanfield here, which I will say, LaKeith, I want to see more of LaKeith in this movie. I thought he was great in his scenes he had. This is her burning down this forest. This is like her soul on fire now. And I think that's what we're seeing at the end here, is that she has completely abandoned who she is and what she can become, because she realizes that she will never get out of this. And Grace is done with the repetitive, nauseating, sort of assaulting life that she's had throughout this film, because it felt like the movie kept going and going and things were just happening again and again and nothing was ever really changing. And I think that that was definitely on purpose, to see Grace almost like in a spinning hamster wheel, just going and going and going and just driving herself more insane. I think that's why she decides to finally burn it all down. Whatever you want to think that means, there are different meanings, of course, for different people. Lynne Ramsay also talks about it. And one of the things we always saw throughout the film was the dark horse. Now here, initially I thought the dark horse was like an omen of sorts, right? I thought that the dark horse represented like death and like the end of things. But I think the more I think about it, when the dark horse would appear, that's when Grace felt more free. And this was something that kind of gave her strength as well, if you will. And I think the scene when Jackson crashes into the horse, I think that's such a very interesting scene to think about, because this crash definitely was the end of the dog here, where I think the dog also represented like the relationship between Jackson as well as Grace. And when Grace finally shoots the dog, she has decided that the relationship is over, right? It's there, it's crying, it's seeking help, and then nobody's coming to aid it, and all Grace can do now is just kill it. At that point, there is no more relationship with Jackson and Grace. That was the last time, I think, too, before that we had actually ever seen them happy. After that, things just spiral and spiral even more. So I think when Jackson and Grace crash into the horse, that's the freedom, sort of like the symbolism for Grace to like finish this relationship. It's over. That's the only way she'll achieve freedom and get out of these like chains she feels towards this house. And that's why she ultimately kills the dog. Like I said, you got to take this movie like poetry. These are not things that are literally happening. It's more of a poem of sorts, which Jennifer Lawrence, Lynne Ramsay have talked about as well. And overall, there is no like clear message or a point I think Ramsay's trying to get to with the film. I think she just wants you to experience this horrible thing that this woman is going through, and that a lot of women go through during these times, and just see how she's dealing with it. And it is a movie that is hard to stomach, I think, and it's not meant to be a cookie cutter type of movie that's telling a story and you follow from 1, 2, and 3. It's a movie where you're just feeling and just taking in everything that's happening and thinking about it, and it's got me thinking so much. So I will do a full video analysis on this movie when I see it again, when I read the book. Stay tuned for that. Hopefully before the end of the year, I'll be able to do that so I can really dive deep into this movie. So stay tuned. But let me know your thoughts and opinions on Die My Love. What did you think about the ending? Did you enjoy this movie or not? Did you walk out of it? I know I've heard so many stories of people walking out. I think in my theater, there was only like 1 or 2 people that walked out. I really did enjoy it because it really got me thinking a lot, and it left me in silence after the credits. This was such a hard movie to get through, and I think that was definitely the point. And it's a movie that leaves you thinking a lot. So honestly, cannot wait to see what Lynne Ramsay does next. Hopefully Jennifer Lawrence gets a nomination here, because truly deserved. But let me know your thoughts and opinions down below. As always, follow us for more on things you love. I'll see you all next time. Stay safe, stay positive.